Here I'm reading part of an article from this German newspaper titled The Sovereign. And this was a newspaper that was only delivered to National Socialist leaders. If yeah, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, the article I'm reading there is by Ernst Ludwig Illinger, The Earnest Bible Students as Messengers of Jewish Bolshevism. So there's the title. See the image there. So I'm just reading where the arrows are, and I'll have the full article at the end. I go through a few images. Anyway, you can see here that Google Translate translated NSDAP wrong. Germans did not use the term Nazi. Almost never. Very, very rarely. Usually tongue in cheek if they did. I've only seen it a couple of times. But you can see here, right, it says the National Socialists over on the left, and then look at how they translated, right? So obviously Google's been programmed by Jews, of course. So, but yeah, shouldn't be Nazi. No such thing. So yeah, I would read this whole article because, like I said, it's about we're talking about the Jehovah's Witnesses and why they were made, why the group was made illegal or banned, right? Because they ended up being subversive, run by Jews. So, but that the average one, I think, had no idea, or at least a lot of them didn't, but a lot of them did. So anyway, I would pause and read the entire thing when we get to the end, but I'm just going to read the arrows. So it says, while the entire doctrine of the Bible students, right, with the Jehovah's Witness, already reveals a clear pro-Jewish tendency, they speak quite openly of Jewish world domination directed from the world city of Jerusalem. The Bible students also make it quite clear in other ways that they work on behalf of and for the Jews. As early as 1910, at the large Zionist convention in New York, Pastor Russell, citing biblical passages, pointed out to the 5,500 Jews gathered there that the development of Zionism was a visible sign of God's recurring grace toward the people of Israel. Jewish influence and Jewish ambition for power are evident in all of Rutherford's writings. His affinity for the Jewish people, his promotion of Zionism, his rejection of everything national except Jewishness, and his stance on the problem of wealth, even his Jewish ancestry, is disputed. At least he appears to be a Jew by conviction. However, Vice President C.A. Wise is undoubtedly Jewish by ethnicity. That this association was initially financed by Jews was already proven in a trial held in Switzerland in 1924 and 25, right? So they're saying that Jehovah's Witnesses, that group, the Jehovah's Witness group, was literally financed by Jews. That's crazy. Now, the original founder, I thought, of the Watchtower or the Jehovah's Witnesses who wrote the Watchtower, I thought was anti-Jew. I think I have a copy of the Watchtower, and somewhere in there, I think he completely and utterly lambasts the Jews and like compares them to Satan or something like that. Unless I'm thinking of a different denomination, I can't quite remember at the moment, but pretty sure it was a book called The Watchtower, which I think is the Jehovah's Witnesses book. But it was like way older than what we're reading here. So I don't know, very interesting. So there was a reason why the Germans did what they did because they left most other Christian denominations alone. Here was an example of the Jehovah's Witness propaganda. So over on the left, the arrow, top arrow, it says, it has now been established that the International Bible Students Association is disseminating writings throughout the country that are dangerous to the state and security. The individual groups of this association operate under various names, such as Bible Students, International Bible Students, International Bible, it repeated itself, Magdeburg Bible Tractate, God Yahweh's Teachings, Light Watchtower, etc. Right? Why don't they just operate under one name like most churches do? Why would they have to change it? Right? Because they're being deceptive. The teachings of these sects that were just named are in complete agreement with Marxist doctrine. They, with the only difference being that the Bible is supposed to form the basis of their collective social organization. 25 such 25 such sect leaders have been arrested. The fight against the IBV and its followers, who are still active today, is an act of state self-defense that must be waged with all available means and all energy. The banning of the IBV in Germany initially resulted in the illegal activities of the followers of this politicizing sect increasing month by month throughout the Reich. Secret meetings were held, banned propaganda leaflets were distributed, and Jehovah's Witnesses were arrested daily. So, yeah, very interesting. So, I mean, they were knowingly or unknowingly working on behalf of the Jews, and maybe some of these quote unquote Jehovah's Witness students were actually Jews pretending to be Christians, right? We get that all the time, right? That's what we know, that the Germans arrested a lot of Jewish pastors in the Catholic and Protestant churches when they were cleansing the churches, right? Getting rid of subversives. So, so here's a complete translated article, so you can pause and read all this. I think I have one more thing to read. Um, yeah, I think there's like 4 pages or something. So here I want to read a few. I may have read some of these already, but I'm going to read them again. So on the bottom left, it says, from then on, the true masterminds of the IBV, right, of the Jehovah's Witnesses, dropped the mask they had so carefully maintained, and in the banned writings and leaflets, revealed the unvarnished face of the Jewish and Bolshevik enemy of the state, right? So they're saying once they banned the Jehovah's Witnesses, then the Jehovah's Witnesses didn't care anymore. And then they showed who they really were, or at least the writers of that denomination were, right? Which were Jews and Marxists, communists, Bolsheviks. So it says, with an openness that leaves nothing to be desired. These threads or these writings, that they are in truth only holding up the cross in order to more easily pursue their subversive goals and activities behind it, right? So the Germans had a reason for what they did. Under that, it says, if the top arrow, the second arrow on the right from the top, says if the entire doctrine of the Bible students already reveals a clear pro-Jewish tendency, since they speak quite openly, of Jewish world domination, which should be directed from the world city of Jerusalem. That I read already, right? But I'll continue. Then the Bible students also make it quite clear in other ways that they work on behalf of and for the Jews. As early as 1910, right, the Zionist Congress, that Pastor Russell pointed out that 5,500 Jews assembled there, citing biblical passages that the development of Zionism was a visible sign of God's recurring grace toward the people, towards the Jews, right? Obviously, he didn't really know who the real people of Israel were. Then under that, it says Jewish influence and Jewish ambition for power also comes to the fore in all of Rutherford's writings. His affinity for the Jewish people, his promotion of Zion. Oh, I think I read this too, but whatever. His promotion of Zionism, his rejection of everything national except Jewishness, and his stance on the problem of wealth accumulation make him appear at least as a Jew by conviction, even though his Jewish ancestry is disputed. Right, so that's crazy. He was possibly a Jew. And then it says the vice president was a Jew. Then it says that it's self-evident that the followers of former communist and Marxist parties and organizations sought refuge with the Bible students in order to continue their disguised political struggle against the government of Adolf Hitler. Since the International Bible Students Association was banned, it is precisely the followers of former communist parties who are attempting to continue the struggle under this guise, right? So, for whatever reason, Jehovah's Witnesses allowed a bunch of communists and Bolsheviks into their ranks. And it's saying right there, what I just read, that those communists and Marxists and Bolsheviks are continuing the fight against Germany under the guise of the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So, do you understand why they banned the Jehovah's Witnesses? Had nothing whatsoever to do with being against Christianity. It's because of a bunch of Jews using this Christian organization to attack the German people. So I think it's pretty clear. The article makes it very clear what was happening. So anyway, you can pause and read the last 2 slides here, or the last slide, and that is it. So.